The Circle of Hope and a testimony of what God is doing in people's lives. All that and more coming up now on Joy in the City True Stories. Joy in the City is a program highlighting people and organizations having an impact in our city. All too often, we hear about the problems and the dysfunction in our culture, but we are coming with a different approach as we take a look at the good things that are going on right here in our community. I'm Bethany Marshall, and you're about to see what God is doing in our city. We want to thank our program sponsors, Park Home, for the donation of furniture used in our studio, Made by Vogel for the contribution of many props in our studio, and our platinum sponsor, Harry's Construction, for their ongoing support of Joy in the City. Helping to fight the stigma of substance use disorder is something that Marianne Sinisi is passionate about. Recently, she shared with us about the monument that has been put in Tuckahoe Park and how that came about.
Hi Marianne, the last time we had you here we discussed Family United for Change, but you've also got another project going on, which is the Circle of Hope Memorial. So why don't you tell me a little bit of the inspiration behind that memorial, which is, I believe, down at Tuckahoe Park.
The inspiration for that was totally my son, Sean. He was such a sweet, loving, sensitive kid, and I just felt like I had to do something big for him. But then once I come up with an idea, I thought this can't be just about him, because he's not the only one lost to this horrible disease. So I wanted to make it about so many that lost. And once I had a friend send me something, it was the sculpture called Emptiness. And when I saw that, it was just so impactful, because I felt like that is exactly how I feel. And so I thought about it for months and thought if I could ever put something somewhere, it would be something that showed that kind of pain. And so, of course, fundraising for this took some time, which was good because it gave me time to think about how I wanted it to be. And I didn't want it to be just about pain, although that's what I feel. But I wanted it to be a place and a sculpture that showed hope, and maybe a place for somebody to come that's suffering themselves to feel love. So I took the idea of that sculpture to Fox Chapel Ironworks, and we worked on a thing that would show, you know, the pain that I felt, but yet he's a man in recovery and proud of his recovery. So he brought to the table that part of it, but yet I, you know, again, wanted that pain there, and the thought and the depth that somebody in recovery, or maybe in a bad way and thinking about a relapse, could go and just feel warmth and love. And so that's where I decided the things that I put on the plaque that are there, those were all things that were very important to me. Sean's father, his brother, his sister, and Sean himself would, you know, share those things.
Give us a little bit of, and I know I'm asking you to go to a dark place, but give the viewers a little idea of what exactly happened to Sean, so that they can maybe appreciate when I get onto the questions about the memorial itself.
Well, for Sean, you know, it takes me back, like I said, to the choice that people always say that they have a choice. But I feel like that's not always the case at all, because people have trauma and mental health issues that bring them to very dark places. And for Sean, it was sexual abuse as a child. Now, of course, we didn't know it when he was young, but the older he got and things started to change, it really started to just fit that we knew that that was the catapult for his use. But we couldn't get him to come to terms with talking about it or getting help for it. And by the time, you know, he started getting into the years of heavy use, he was already in the legal system, and the legal system doesn't really care about those kinds of things. Mental health isn't a top priority. It's punishment, no matter how little, you know, of a crime that you would commit. it doesn't matter. So, you know, you're doing jail time, you don't get that kind of help. So for me, I guess it's, like I said, it's very painful because we know that there was a reason. We always tried to bring it to the surface as far as the legal system and show them there was that possibility, but we didn't get the help that we deserved or he deserved. It was always just the basic places that didn't have trauma, which to me he should have had trauma and addiction treatment, not just one. And there's the big argument that goes on in the system of you have to treat the addiction first, then the trauma. But then I'd have psychologists that we would discuss and they'd say, no, that's wrong. You have to treat them both equally, or he's just going to keep repeating the cycle. And it just seemed for us, he was always in a bad place, and we could just never get the right help at the right time. So
you did the memorial. What was the goal? A place for peace or a place for awareness? Because I was there yesterday and it made me very aware. And when I walked away, I felt very aware. Was that the goal you had in mind, or?
for me, initially, it was because we chose to have him cremated and not buried. I didn't have a place to go. I mean, yes, his ashes are in our home, but I don't know that they'll remain there and what we'll decide to do years from now. But I felt like I needed a place to go to feel close to him, and I know there's a lot of other parents that feel the same way, that they have chose the same route, and so they needed a place to be, to feel close to their loved one. But yeah, the other part was to show awareness that our children weren't broken. They had a disease and needed help. And there's not much help out there. And you wouldn't know that unless you go through it yourself.
The sculpture is someone sitting down, they look stressed. They look like they're in distress, and the heart is cut out. And before I walked away, I looked over my shoulder one last time, and I just noticed a red heart. The person's heart was on the floor by their feet.
Yeah, it's very impactful, and it was,
Very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
I, like I said, I had a sculpture that I looked at, the emptiness, and of course, I didn't want it to be that empty, but yet I wanted Mr. Beach to put something in there that showed that pain. I think for him, it's the pain that he went through, but yet it's also showing the pain that a parent goes through.
Yes. Speaking of which, above it, there's a halo. And I noticed at the top, it's made out of metal, and it looks like a son with his mom's arms wrapped around him. And he also has his arms around his mother's.
Yes.
And I had to think, was that you?
That is, he did that for me, yes. I didn't want people to think that this is just a place for Sean, because it's not. Of course, it means a lot to me, but I wanted it to be for everyone. But he did put some special little things in for me,
Yeah.
and that was one of them.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Pastor Jim says, he always has these iconic things that he says. They're things that he says that will stay with you forever. And he said, families that have an addict in their family, it's like having a rose. It's so beautiful, yet there's a thorn that pricks and it hurts.
Yeah.
But yet it's such a beautiful thing. And I'm sure you can kind of relate to that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, he had a lot of great qualities. And to me, they more definitely outshined everything else that was negative. I could accept all of it because I knew it wasn't him. It was the drug, or the desire for the drug, or the desire to hide the pain of the sexual abuse.
Is the project finished? Is the memorial finished, or is it a work in progress?
I feel like it is finished in some degree, but yet then, you know, we sit over there, my husband and I, and we'll look at it and think, wouldn't it be nice to put a solar light? Wouldn't it be nice to change the the sign at the park, or maybe even add another bench or put some more bushes in. We're just always sitting there thinking about how we can grow it and bring more people. And it's really nice because we do go by a lot and see people sitting there on the benches, maybe having a lunch or coffee, or having their children on the blanket in front of them and playing. And it's great. It brings us exactly what we wanted, which was hope.
It's a beautiful memorial. It is very impactful, very awakening, and I thank you so much for putting that there. And my only regret in going there yesterday was that I didn't see it sooner.
Yeah.
So you did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today's Platinum sponsor is Harry's Construction, whose motto is, "If you can dream it, we can create it." Recently opening Harry's Construction Kitchen and Bath Center so you, the consumer, can see examples of the variety of services provided by the team at Harry's Construction. Regardless of the project size, Harry's team approaches each project as if it is his own home. Be sure to visit Harry's Construction Kitchen and Bath Center at 114 Main Street in Bellwood. You can also visit their website to see pictures of home improvement projects over the years. Thanks again to Harry Halk and the team for supporting Joy in the City.
Made by Vogel is a father and son business that produces high-quality handmade wooden products such as cutting boards, bowls, bottle stoppers and more. Products for sale can be found on their Etsy site or in downtown Altoona at the Clay Cup. You can't go wrong buying from Made by Vogel.
Today we will hear the testimony of Tim Lozinski and how God has been working in his life.
Well, thank you, Tim, for joining me for a few moments today. Every once in a while, I'd like to chat with people about what God's done in their life, their testimony. And if you could, before we get into any specific stories, tell me a little bit about your journey in coming to Christ and what that was like.
Oh my. Back in 1985, when I gave my heart to Christ, I was a truck driver over the road, and we had a babysitter that attended our house quite a bit, and every time I'd come home, she'd harass me about, why don't you give your heart to Christ? Why don't you give your heart to Christ? And it's like, So finally, from being chewed on like a dog's leg, I said, what do I got to do for you to shut up? And she said, well, say this prayer with me. So I said the sinner's prayer. And I said, okay, are we happy now? And then she got on the phone and called 2 or 3, oh, Tim just gave his heart to Christ, Tim. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Meant nothing to me other than, finally appeased her enough. But as of then it began to like, well, I should go to church after all, So when I was home, I went to church and started liking it. And then you make new friends, and then people have similar interests in you and so on. You hang around, and so it became pretty cool, But it was still very casual, So it just didn't hit for a long time. It was just something I went through to do. So that's how it started.
Now, you're a very passionate follower of Christ. So you changed from that casual. What changed? What transpired in you that changed you?
Well, I think, there's instances in my life that I've seen Christ so evident that I couldn't deny it. Just one time my wife and I was working on a sweeper. I'm a handyman. I fix everything. Well, we lost a part. She picked it up. It went flying. And I'm like, oh man, we need that part, And I'm like, well, and so I'm outside. And I said, Lord, I need to find that part. I need it. And it was in amongst these flowers. My wife, she plants flowers everywhere, and it's beautiful, but also you could hide a dead body in there if you wanted to, So, but here comes this piece, and it was no bigger than a quarter. And I'm like, oh, can you, I said, Ruth Ann, did you? And I'm smiles, and then it's like, wow, So stuff like that, so many things. Just recently, my wife's phone went on to blink. And she was at the ocean, and she calls me and she says, hey, I'm going to need a new phone, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I said, wait till you get home, because we buy them together. So anyway, she come home, and it wouldn't work. And I'm looking, and I said, "Can I see it?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Did you pray over your phone?" She's like, "Pray over your phone?" I said, "Yeah, Ruth Ann, pray about everything. There's nothing anything that we have around us, anything that's in our midst, God created for us. It may have been a man, but God gave the increase, just like the Word of God. It was His inspired Word. Well, anything we have is inspired of God." I prayed for it. And I said, "Lord, we need this phone. We don't really want to buy new ones. They're so expensive," and so on like that. I plugged it in, let it sit there a while, and nothing. And then all of a sudden, how I have one of those old-fashioned Android phones. You people don't know anything about them, but it started charging. And so I left it there, and I said, "Lord, it's yours. It was yours in the first place." And the next morning, she got it, and she said, "Hey, it's working. You can't believe it." And I'm like, that's our God. That's Him.
So those experiences over and over have
so
built
many
you to where you are today.
Yeah, you don't have enough time for me to fill in all the gaps. So.
Now, I know as a believer, everything isn't peaches and cream when you become a follower of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You've had a few ups and downs, and God has really brought you through some situations. Would you care to share a little bit about that, those journeys?
Yeah, I was a truck driver, and I thought I was the ace boo coup. I was making twice as much as anybody else. I was going from the house all the time, but money-wise, in the end of the day, it looked good, and so I became pretty, I ain't got time for you, and arrogant and cocky, and it was my way or the highway, and God saw that in me, and He said, "Hey, you need to change that." And I'm like, "Yeah, come on, I believe in you. I'm going to church. I'm throwing my $20 in the plate. I'm good." Before I knew how to tithe, and the benefit of all that, and I think sin leads to consequences. Well, I had a situation with my back, and I was doing therapy over at one of the local places here, and my heart was like, wow. And the lady came by, my therapist, she said, "How you doing?" I said, "I don't know, I feel terrible, I'm sweating." And she said, "Well, get off of there." And I said, "Well, I still got 2 minutes." She says, "Get off of there, goofy." So I got off. They called AMED. They came, and I had a heart situation that I didn't know. This was out at Joyner, and Bon Secours was right there. They ripped my shirt open. I thought, holy crap, and they're putting these things on me, and then I'm in a full-blown something or other, and they take me to Bon Secours. From Bon Secours, I went to Altoona, and ended up being a triple bypass. They did a catheterization, and they said, "You got one at 100, one at 90, one at 70. And I'm like, so what's that mean? So I'm doctoring for a back, and my heart goes bad in the meantime. And so we did the catheterization, and they said, "You need a triple bypass." I said, "Okay, when?" And there's 3 doctors there, and they're looking like, "Well, we're only doing 4 tomorrow. We usually do 5. I'm like, tomorrow. They're like, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, let's do it, because I don't want to think about this, because it's scary, because it's, good Lord, I'm 41 years old. This is back in 1997, So all that to say, I went through, I had the triple bypass. The back still wasn't good, but I have an artificial right hip, so they said, "Your back is out of line because of," so they said, if we did a hip surgery and brought that hip up where it belongs, your back would probably be fine. I said, "All right, so let's do it." So I had the heart in November, the back in January. They're like, "You can't do it, you need to heal." I said, "I'm already laying around doing nothing. I want to get back to work, because that's my identity. That's where my identity was." Well, they did the hip, and it didn't do a thing for my back. So then in September of '98, I had the back surgery, a major surgery. So I was off work for 2 years. And here's this cocky, arrogant man that he makes his own way, and he does his own thing, and you're in my way. And, it was so humbling, because people brought me food. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't need food." "Well, I'll find somebody to give it to." I said, "All right, I'll give it to one of the neighbors." As soon as they left, I put it in the cupboard. I needed it. I was just too stinking arrogant and, self-reliant to be able to say, "Okay, Christ." Somebody was sending me money every 2 weeks, and an unaddressed, no way of sourcing who it was. And it's like, oh, weeping. My wife's going to work every day, and she's, "Okay, I'll see you later on." And she's, "All right, I'm not. I work. I make the big money. And God finally, like, poof, poof, poof. I was looking straight up, buddy, because I was as low as I could be for Tim-wise. And I finally submitted to Christ, and I said, Lord, weeping like a baby. And he, in my, the way I would describe it is he's like, oh, you think you got it now? Yeah, Lord, I submit. He said, all right, like pat me on the on the butt and said, okay, get up. I was back to work in a week, back driving a tractor trailer, which I love to do. For the first week, Troy, I couldn't get in it without bawling. It was just like, God, you're so good. You're so good. Now, I hated that 2 years. I can tell you that 2 years of it. I'm going to be off a month, maybe 2 years. God's, because I'm a slow learner. My last name's Lozinski and all that. So I learned slow, but He showed me, and that opened my eyes to say there isn't anything that isn't through Christ, And so just recently, we've got this government stuff that's going on, and you can become overwhelmed with it. It can rack your brain. And then I read some stuff that says, I read it at the Lighthouse one day, I have overcome the world. It's like, yeah, you have, haven't you? Why are we worrying about so much about what he did, what she did, what they said, what they're doing, and this and that? And I just said, no, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. It'll never go away. Its mercies are new every morning. And so that's how I live my life now, and it makes me happy. And I can be happy, and I'm not grumpy anymore, and I'm not, so much. I say, I'm still, you hang out with me once in a while, but I just love the Lord. That's all there is to it.
Tim, I think I watched your journey. I haven't seen this entire journey that you talk about, but I watched your journey of just life. And I know you have a litany of stories you could tell about God's faithfulness. And I always enjoy hearing your stories, because no matter what you're going through, you always show the goodness of God in your life. And I often razz you, we joke a lot, but I want you to know that I consider you one of the most influential people in our church.
Wow.
Just because of you just let the aura of God elude off of you. I have you on our worship team, and when you play, you don't just play in the rhythm section, you worship God through what you do.
Thank you.
And I think that is something that we can all learn from. And I just really want you to know I appreciate you and all that you do, even if I give you a hard time. And I probably won't say another good thing about you.
I'm not sure I believe all this, but
and I probably won't say too many other good things about you. But today, I in all honesty, I appreciate you, and this is why I wanted to pull you in for a testimony. I felt that I've seen God do some amazing things through you, and because we hear them often, maybe we'll pull you in again sometime and hear about more.
That's
stories.
great. Yep. 13 surgeries later, but God's still on the throne. It really doesn't matter what's going on in your life. He's still right there. He's as close as a brother.
Thanks, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
As we close out today's show, here are a few thoughts from our director, Troy Ferguson.
Today's motivational thought comes from the old adage that says, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. What does that mean? Whenever we are going through something difficult, challenging, we take what we have and we make the best of it. Right now, in this country, really around the world, we are going through a pandemic that everybody is with great anxiety, with great concern over this and over what we need to do. But let me just tell you what I have seen, and I always try to find the positive in what situation to bring about. I've been so blessed and really so impressed with the creativity in people as they have to come together and connect with one another differently than ever before. Maybe it's through a Facebook live stream, maybe it's through a Zoom conference call, whatever it is. People are taking new stands and new efforts to do things that they've never had to do before. Recently, my wife and the kids went on a walk in our neighborhood, and the local school and community actually put together like a scavenger hunt kind of thing where different people could see different things as they walked throughout the community. And that kind of thing didn't happen typically. Whenever you see people, a lot of times they're kinder, they're more thoughtful than typically, just because everyone's kind of in a very slowed down state in their life. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a few people out there that are rude and full of anxiety, and it's causing them to be mean in different situations. But for the most part, people have been very thoughtful, very considerate, very kind. And I've just been so blessed to see this. Churches have ramped up their social media involvement, specifically with their live streams and different things. And it's been amazing to see how many churches have kicked up their technology to be able to allow for live stream. I even said a few weeks ago that we should be rejoicing in this as the church, because Jesus is being proclaimed on social media like never before, each and every Sunday. As a matter of fact, much of social media, including Facebook, has been inundated with so much content that it's even caused problems, specifically on a Sunday morning when everyone is trying to stream their service. People are being reached that maybe never walk into your church, but they are being reached for the cause of Christ because of this. The Bible tells us in Proverbs to trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. I want to encourage everyone, trust in God. Put our hope, our faith in God, not in the government, not in the remedy for this virus, but in God. He will take care of you. As you put your trust in Him, He will make your pathway straight. I just want to encourage you that in this time, continue to be creative, continue to be kind, continue to be innovative in reaching people and connecting with people. Yeah, you might not be able to be in their presence, but you can in a virtual manner through the technology that we have today. 20 years ago, 10 years ago even, we wouldn't have been able to do some of the things that we can do right now in this pandemic. Let me encourage you today, we don't need to be full of anxiety, full of worry. Yes, we can be cautious and we can be responsible, and I encourage everyone to do that. But let's put our trust, our faith, our hope in God. And as we do that, let that hope, let that shine through us in everyone around us. And those who may be full of anxiety, full of hurt, full of worry, full of uncertainty, can we be that light to give them comfort, to give them peace in the midst of all this turmoil? I pray that you do that today. I pray that you do that this week, and be blessed and be kind to one another, and go make some lemonade.
That's all the time we have today. Thanks for watching Joy in the City True Stories, and let me encourage you to watch other episodes of people and organizations having an impact on our community on ABC 23 at 5:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. every Sunday. You can also catch us each week on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Until then, be encouraged because God is moving in our city.